Hello there, welcome to Christopher's Weekly History Topics for the week of June 23rd to the 29th. Now, normally I would do this topic next week because it's the 150th anniversary of it, but because, as I mentioned before in the previous video, I'm running out of topics, I decided to do it this week instead of next week. So, here it goes. And also, because it's a very long topic, even though I know a lot about history and stuff like that, I still have to have help occasionally with big topics. With small topics, I can easily, tell you what I've learned and off the top of my head, you know. But with something like this, I would have to have help, and that's why I have this right here. This is at my community college. I took a Civil Wars course about, I would say, a semester or two ago, and this was the textbook they use. They don't use this textbook anymore for it, but it's very good in explaining the entire Civil War. So what I'm doing is basically, because this is a big topic, I'm using the help of a book. Normally, because the topics that I do aren't as big, I normally don't need a book because I can recall it all from memory, but because this is such a big topic, I need the assistance of a book. As you know, or you should know, next week is the 150th anniversary of the Battle of Gettysburg, basically the turning point of the Civil War. The Battle of Gettysburg starts out I'm going to go over the overview. I'm not going over it day by day, this is July 1st, this is July 2nd, this is July 3rd. I'm not going day by day. I'm just going over the basics of the battle. Okay? One thing you have to realize is this. Why Gettysburg? Well, here's the thing. General Robert E. Lee and his Army of Northern Virginia are going... They want to invade the North. The Confederacy has done very well in 1861 and 1862, and Lee thinks that to boost more morale and to get, the South going again, they need to do, instead of battling federal forces on Southern territory, like in Virginia, in Virginia, Georgia, Carolinas, instead of battling them in the Confederate territory, Lee wants to take the war right to the Northerners. So he plans an invasion of Pennsylvania. So in late June, he takes his Army of Northern Virginia through Virginia and Maryland, and then goes into Pennsylvania. Now, his original target, though, was not Gettysburg. And that's the one thing you have to understand about the Battle of Gettysburg. Lee's main target was not the town of Gettysburg. He was actually after a bigger target in Pennsylvania, I would say possibly Pittsburgh or Philadelphia. If he were to capture a big, well-known Pennsylvania city, and won, then that would basically boost the morale of the Confederacy, and it would mean disastrous for the North, especially for the North. It would be disastrous. But this is not the case. In the Civil War, there are spies everywhere, and Northern spies found the Army of Northern Virginia going through Pennsylvania, and they eventually clash near the town of Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. There are rumors about this, but this is just a rumor. The rumor, I think, has actually been proven false. There used to be a rumor in American history that the Battle of Gettysburg happened by accident because Lee's Army of Northern Virginia didn't have shoes, and they knew of this one shoe factory outside of Gettysburg. And when the Union troops saw them advancing towards the town, they thought they were going to attack the town. That rumor, however, I heard, is supposed to be false. But then again, there are still people who believe that rumor, that it started over shoes. I personally don't believe that it started over that. I'm just telling you what I was taught. What I was taught was that Lee wanted to get a bigger, well-known city in Pennsylvania, like Pittsburgh, Philadelphia. He wanted to get those main ones to crush the North's spirit and to boost the morale of the Confederacy. They eventually do clash at Gettysburg, the Union troops and the Confederate troops under General Robert E. Lee on July 1st, 1863. And they battle it out. What are some things you should know about the battle? Like I said before, I'm not one for military history, so I'm not going to go over, this had that position, this had that position. I'm not going to say, well, Lee was up there with Longstreet, or Longstreet was over there, and Pickett was over there. I'm not one for that. I'm just going over the main points of the battle. And one main point of the battle is the well-known, infamous Pickett's Charge. Pickett's Charge happened not on the first day of the battle, but close to the end of the battle. It was actually a complete failure, believe it or not. General Pickett was a Confederate general, and he needed to take a hill called Culp's Hill. He thought that if he takes his Confederate division and charges up that hill, that if they were to get the hill, the battle would not be a total failure. That the Confederates will gain the hill, and then from there they can put up more ground and destroy more Union troops. This, however, was a complete failure. There were Federal troops up on Culp's Hill, and when Pickett and his men charged up the hill to get it, the Federals just shot them down. And believe it or not, a lot of men were killed that way by just being completely stupid, just running, thinking that they can get something, and they end up dead. So, like I said before, they lose the hill, and I forget what happened, but I think maybe Pickett is wounded or either dead at the end of the battle, but I might be wrong on that, so don't quote me on that. But anyway, Pickett's Charge is a complete failure. Even though it's a complete failure, though, it is the most memorable part of the battle. If you were to ask someone about the Battle of Gettysburg, basically everyone knows, oh yeah, I remember Pickett's Charge, he tried to get a hill, he failed. This was basically the bloodiest battle and the bloodiest war of American history. As you know, the Civil War was the most deaths in American history to date, and in the most bloodiest war of our nation. The bloodiest battle of that bloodiest war is the Battle of Gettysburg. More men died at Gettysburg than I would say in the entire war together. It's a bloodbath, basically. That's the one thing you have to remember about Gettysburg. It is a bloodbath. At the end of the day, well, it's basically a draw, basically. Even though the Federal troops did stop Lee's invasion into Pennsylvania, it basically didn't have a clear-cut winner, as oh well, the Union won that one, or oh no, the Confederacy won that one. There's no clear-cut um, winner loser here. You could say that the Union did win this battle because it stopped Lee's invasion of the North after Lee and his army were done at the Battle of Gettysburg. They started to retreat. They didn't try to attack anything further in the North, and you can see how this basically turns the tide of the war. And believe it or not, after Gettysburg, we see a lot more northern victories and a lot less southern victories. You can basically say that the Battle of Gettysburg is actually the turning point of the war, in which you had all these Confederate victories from 1861, 1862, a little bit in 1863, and then all of a sudden Gettysburg hits, and you get to see, more Union battles being won, more Confederate losses. Lee's Army of Northern Virginia is eventually on the run, eventually, after Gettysburg. And, so it's a really high turning point of the war. That's why it is, like, the most important battle. You have, the most deaths and the most killed war. Like, for instance, I don't know the number, but I know that it's in, like, I think either the 100,000s or something. I do know that it was like, yeah, I forget the numbers. I'm not very good with numbers, but I do know that it was a big battle with a lot of losses, and at the end of the day, the biggest loss was to the Confederacy because they lost the battle. They weren't able to capture the town of Gettysburg. They weren't able to capture Philadelphia or whatever Lee wanted to plan. So anyway, like I said before, this is a big Northern victory, and that's it. I'm sorry if I was a little confusing at the ending there. It's just the Battle of Gettysburg was extremely complicated to understand, and I can't explain it all in like 12 and a half minutes. So that's just an overview of it. If you want to know anything else, I would highly recommend seeing the movie Gettysburg, or there is a really good book that I recommend if you are a military Civil War buff. It is this one right here. If you want to know more about the war, about the battle itself, it's this right here. Michael Shiraz, The Killer Angels. If you want to know more about it, like I said before, I only know a little bit about it, and I can't give that much information on it in a short amount of time. If you want to know more, I would recommend buying this one. It's a very good book. It talks about, the Battle of Gettysburg, leading up to it and the actual fighting. I had to read this for a Civil War course. In the Civil War course that I took, besides this actual book right here, we had to have a supplementary one. That is this one right here. It's no longer required for the course, believe it or not, but it's still a really good book. If you want to know more about the battle, I would definitely recommend getting this one. It's very good. So, like I said before, that's the basics of the battle.